Are studios and publishers just dumb? So let me look and see. So I've always thought that money dictates everything. However, looking at game studios and publishers recently, I'm questioning whether this is true anymore. So many AAA games come out pushing their political views, usually left-leaning. That's not true. They're always left-leaning. And gamers, time and time again, speak with their wallets, and these games flop hard, costing hundreds of millions of dollars for the studios and the publishers. Logic would dictate that money at the top, people would say this isn't okay, you need to change and give players what they want. But that's the thing, they don't. At what point are studio heads going to wake up, get rid of they, them psychos, who somehow got into positions of running studios, making key decisions, and start delivering games that make bank? So I'll tell you when. This happened kind of recently. So basically what it was is that there was a storyline that Disney had for one of their new movies, and it was like a trans situation, right? And basically, Disney decided to take it out. They got rid of the trans storyline, and from the upcoming Pixar Win or Lose, yeah.
Disney is stirring controversy after deciding to edit out a transgender storyline from its animated series called Win or Lose. This series follows a middle school co-ed softball team in the lead up to a big game. The transgender character will remain in the show, but Disney has decided to remove several lines of dialogue that reference the character's gender identity. The company said it wants to allow
because the reason why is because it's very obvious that average people don't want to hear about transgender ideology being pushed on underage people. This is very obviously the majority opinion. Everybody can see this. The only people that can't see this are the people that are intentionally trying not to find it.
Parents to discuss those topics with their children. The series is produced by Emeryville-based Pixar, a division of Disney.
They say Dixar?
And it's set to begin streaming in February. For more perspective, we're joined here this afternoon live by Dr. Sean Fletcher, a professor of public relations and sport communication at San Jose State University. Professor, it's good to see you. We appreciate the time. So let's start off with the overarching question here. What do you think prompted Disney to remove this dialogue about the transgender
what
teenager's
could possibly
gender identity?
be the reason?
Well, I think that it would be hard to overlook the potential political undertones of this situation because
being trans is absolutely a political issue. It 100% is. And even if you think it isn't fundamentally, it's been made into one. Conservatives don't like trans, liberals like trans. That's it.
When it moves through production, I'm surprised that it moved this far in the process of production to where somehow, some way, someone had an awakening and decided to make this alteration in the script so late into production.
It's because people switched up on this really fast. That's the reason why. It's like, I mean, I'm not the only person that's seeing this shit, right? Like, people are switching up on this real quick. And I think they're going to keep going. Trump won is why? I think they're right. I mean, that probably is a big factor.
It seems to me from Bob Iger's Disney's lead that to do an about face, feeling as though they don't want to move into politics, is very different than what Disney and many of its subsidiaries had put out there in the animated space. So
that's because they never cared about it in the first place. They care about politics as a advertising tool. If it was popular to advertise being racist, they would advertise being racist. A good example of that is Disney. Literally them. They're the example. Wow.
To me, that
they
this
issue
is completely getting caught up in what has now become a culture war related to transgender.
When I talk about anti-Semitic, Disney, what we are talking about, we're talking about the real professional anti-Semitism. We talk about the whole thing. Oh, yeah. It's not just like some kind of, it's a joke or something like that. They're going whole hog. Yep, whole hog on it.
gender issues in
Yeah.
society.
And what do you think Disney is worried about here? I mean, on the one
Yeah.
hand, like you say, obviously this was approved at some point,
Right.
and this was green lighted, and now a few years later, you have Disney clearly worried potentially about a backlash.
That's
Absolutely.
exactly it, because it got changed. People changed their opinion. That's why. That's why you never use social issues to talk about things, like to advertise. Is because eventually people, like, things turn around and they change, and then people hate you for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the
And
meta
again,
changed.
Bob Iger,
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
fairness, is the twice chairman of Disney now, and his predecessor. And they mentioned in the statement,
Yeah.
when the very popular Lightyear series had a same-sex kiss, and many issues dealing with the LGBTQ plus community were spotlighted in some of these other animated films that they have put out. Now Bob Iger is on the scene in a very different social climate.
Well, here's the big difference, though, right? Is like in Lightyear, what I remember, this, I could be wrong, but this was 2 adults, right? So like one of them, it's like, also, I think that average people get being gay. Average people don't get being trans. That's the truth. And so when you're talking about like if like gay is like a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10 for those people, trans is like a 9. So, like, number one, it's a much harder thing to sell people. Number two, it's adults versus kids. Totally different situation. And also, even with that, a lot of people said, I'm not going to take my kid to see this. I don't want to take my kid to see some stuff about, like, gay people. I don't want to be part of this messaging. I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to hear about it. Get it out. And I saw so many posts about this whenever this movie came out. And I bet it probably did affect the sales. At least enough. As a gay guy, there are no issues. Please stop talking about us. We just needed marriage rights. That's all. Bro, like, everybody that's normal knows that. Really, everybody knows this. Like, look, nobody's blaming you because some weirdo is, like, trying to, like, push something on kids. Like, everybody knows it's not your fault. Like, let's be real.
Now it feels as though he wants to move away from challenging some of the societal ills and some of the issues that we still struggle.
No. He was saying, he said, what he was saying is he didn't like, what he was trying to communicate, I think, is that he didn't like how these different companies use his identity as a advertisement tool. That's it. He wasn't saying, like, he said he didn't like being used as an advertising tool. Like, that was, I think, what he was trying to get at. I don't think he was meaning that at me. What an idiot. Why, whoever say that? No, I mean, but, like, as a gay, like, I could see, like, as a gay person, how this probably, I think that the amount of companies that do a lot of social messaging about, like, the gay issue or, like, trans issues or whatever, I do think that they have been a tremendous net negative for the movements themselves. Like, looking back on it and, like, thinking back on how things were in, like, 2016, 2014, 2010, I think that they have massively negatively impacted it. Like, the Bud Light stuff, etc. Yeah, what the fuck? No, you don't think so? I do think so. And the reason why is that I think, like, the idea of giving people equal rights and giving people, like, the privilege to be able to express themselves and love who they want, be who they want to be, I think this is a pure ideal. And what a company does when they come in and they co-opt that ideal is, it's like, imagine that you have, like, a clear glass of water and then you put 2 or 3 drops of food coloring in it. And that food coloring is Disney's anti-Semitism. It's Disney's long-standing issues that they've had with animators. And so you take a company that's had its own baggage, its own problems, and then it basically attaches itself onto a social issue like a parasite. And it is a parasite because it siphons out the goodwill and the lifeblood from this social issue to benefit itself while contributing nothing in any sort of material way towards the social issue. So they're actually hurting the social issues. They're making them worse. And I think that a lot of people that are gay, they see that. And they're like, this is not good. This is making things worse. I think that's what's happened. Again, this is my assessment of it. People are going to disagree. Sure. But this is what I think.
And now it feels as though he wants to
People get radicalized
move
because of
away
preaching? Yeah.
from challenging some of the societal ills and some of the issues that we still struggle to come to terms with as a society, but also as parents, as we're leading our children through society right now. It feels as though he wants to now move things a bit back to center, and now all of a sudden just become based on entertainment, which that has not been their brand up until now.
All right. Speaking of Disney's explanation,
Totally
the company did say in a statement that when it comes to animated content for a younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline. What's wrong with this notion that Disney just is saying they want to allow?
They're completely right. And I think this is a good idea. Like, the way that I've always looked at it is that the reason why it's important to let parents teach their kids this and teach kids this way after they learn about sexual education, it's the same reason why you learn about addition and subtraction before you learn about multiplication and division. It's because these are more complex concepts that require a foundation of knowledge. So if you give people the knowledge without giving them the foundation to contextualize that knowledge with, I think that it can fuck people's heads up. Yeah, it confuses children. It does. There's a process in doing it. Like, this is, like, I actually do think that at a certain point, people should be educated that there are people that believe that they're transgender. They should be educated that there are people who are intersex. They should be educated that there are people who are gay. Because I think that, again, school is to prepare a person for the real world. And this is in the real world, and it's educational, right? I'm not saying, like, you know, circle this box if you think you're trans. I'm saying to explain that this is something that some people deal with, right? Of course. Just as from an educational perspective.
Parents the ability to have these conversations with their kids on their own terms.
Is that the reason they removed it? It is indirectly. So the reason they removed it is because of the conclusion of the logic that I just used, because that's the way many parents feel.
That's absolutely fair. And if that is your creative and production edict, then again, I go back to what I said earlier. How does it move this far into the production process? How does it get greenlit to this extent to where you have a transgender voice actress, Chanel Stewart, being told so late in the production process, almost on the eve of it airing? It feels as though something else entered into this administrative management dialogue that moved them away from it. But it is absolutely, in fairness, that is a fair line to draw in terms of how cinema and how Hollywood plays their role in pushing issues that society has struggled to come to terms with.
But
again, you moved very late into the process that peaked.
The reason why I think it happened really late into the process is that addressing these issues systematically inside of a company probably has a negative chilling effect for anybody who goes against them. So the problem is that people like this, they like to hyperfixate on issues like this, and in the process of hyperfixating on issues like this, they will, like, you don't want to be the guy in the office who says, let's take out the transgender scene, because the people that wanted to put it in are going to call you a transphobe and complain to HR and try to get you fired. So the reason is that it's very hard to root this stuff out of different spaces because of how dangerous it can be for a person's career. And that's the reason why you're talking about toxic positivity. Well, what I'm talking about is, like, the types of people that try to really push this. Not all of them, of course, but there's enough of them to where nobody wants to be labeled that ism or that phobe that is going to cause them to lose a promotion or get fired or get alienated from the office culture even. So that's why they're afraid of it, and that's why they don't talk about it. And that's how these issues keep going and they keep happening. It's because they only really get stopped whenever they get to the very, very high executive level, because those people don't give a fuck. But you have to get really, really high up there.
My curiosity
That's what
as
happens.
to
That's toxic
what
workspace, though.
potentially
I'm
may
just
be
telling you
an
what happened.
underlying issue that you're trying to deal with.
All right, we appreciate your perspective always. Dr. Sean Fletcher, San Jose State University.
There you go.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like, I mean, you can also look at, yeah, I think the dialogue had to be cut to do some references that are way too adult for a family-friendly show. Yeah, exactly. And so I think this is really what happens with, yeah, this is Disney, right? And this is why it happens. It happens because of that chilling effect and how it affects everybody else that's around it. And like when they see it negatively affect them, they think to themselves, well, fuck that. I'm not going to do this anymore, right? I'm not going to take this risk. I'm not going to put myself in this position. And I think that's a smart thing to do in a lot of cases. Yeah, no one wants to be a martyr. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, nobody wants to, like, because the thing is that a lot of people, this is one of the big problems, is that a lot of people who end up getting fired for something like this, their life is materially worse after it happens. So it's not like, you know, like what's Gina Carano doing nowadays? Not really a whole lot. And so people look at it and they see kind of what happens to other people and they don't want that to happen to them. They hire cheap workers too? Yeah, exactly. She works for Daily Wire? Exactly. Yeah, you get blacklisted. And so she's suing Disney? Yeah, but who knows if she's going to win or not. I'm assuming she's not going to. I highly doubt that she will win. But anyway, so that's the reason why they're quote dumb. It's because there's a chilling effect inside of the studios to not push back or criticize or even ask questions about this.